I've been doing a little bit of free motion embroidery, and it's not something I ever thought that I'd be too interested in, to be honest, but I really like the results and I'm getting quite addicted to it. It's so easy. I just thought with free motion embroidery you had to have a skill or be an artist. I really like the naivety, almost childlike doodling when you're doing all of this by hand. So I've tried making flowers. I painted on a heart and then just literally doodled with my needle over the top of it with black thread, and you can be quite precise. So if you want to write or a message or an autograph, then you really can do. These are some little bags I've been making. I've used Dylon paint, painted the image on first, waited for that to dry, and then just doodled over the top of it with my sewing machine. If you use Dylon paints, these are they. You put a hot iron over the top of them and set it for a couple of seconds, and then that's permanent, so you can wash it and everything, and it stays nice and soft after you've washed them. This was a teapot and teacup that I'm going to have a go at replicating in just a second. And then I've got a little Hello Dolly ragdoll. See, this could be for things like pillowcases and bed linen for little girls' rooms. They're really loads of fun. But this is one that I'm going to do in just a second. So again, I've got my free motion embroidery foot, or freehand embroidery foot. I've got my Dylon paint. This is just a piece of calico, and the bags are just two pieces of calico stitched together with a handle on the top, so I've not put any gussets in there or anything. It's a really, really simple bag. So let's show you how we got started. So I've taken one side of my calico. Before I start drawing, I'm going to put some stabiliser on the back of it, and it's a tearaway stabiliser. So just to hold it in place, I'm going to give it a spray with Stick and Stay or any repositionable adhesive, and just flatten that down. So I can still tear that away, it's not permanent. Then I'm going to take my air drying pen. So with this pen, the ink will disappear after around about 72 hours, or it'll wash away if you wanted to. And I'm just going to draw my design. I'm going to do the teapot and teacup. So I'm just going to freehand draw. If you find it easier, you could download images off the internet and trace them onto the paper. But I kind of like things looking a little bit uneven. If it's too perfect, then you may as well have bought it. So a nice big handle. And a spout, of course. And then the lid. And then I've done my teacup here. The handle on the side. And the saucer. And I think we'll have a little bit of curly steam coming out. And time for tea. And I think we'll have a flower on my teapot. With a nice long stem and a leaf, and then a little flower to match on my teacup. Like so. Then I'm going to paint it. Now I'm going to paint slightly inside the purple because it'll disappear. The paint, because it's wet, will make the ink disappear a little bit quicker. And I'm not going to cover the whole of it in paint, and you can water it down quite a lot as well. It surprisingly dries very, very quickly. So again, it kind of comes to life when you start embroidering, so I'm not too worried about this little bit being perfect. Just so quite wet and just get it on there. And I'll just leave the yellow bit to dry slightly before I paint the flower, because I don't want the paints to run. But what I can do while the paint is wet is just shade it a little bit, which I think will look quite nice. So there's my matching teacup. I take a little bit of the red paint and again water it down and mix it in with the yellow in the lid. Then I can put some shadow around here. And while it's still wet, it kind of bleeds nicely, so it makes a nice shade. Red legs. There, nice big fat teacup and teapot. And keep all the shadow coming from the same side. Like the lights hit it, it gives it a little bit more depth. That's the dog snoring you can hear, by the way. Put on the handle. And the spout. A little bit on the lid. Oops, it's a bit dark. And so you can see it's really quick. And you don't need to be an artist. Like that. Then we'll have some green on the leaves. And the stem of my flower. So I'm not worried about being too exact, because when I embroider over this, when it's dry, you'll see the outline better then. So it's just kind of an idea. And the flower is going to be in blue. Nice and bold. There, that'll do for now. I'm going to leave the paint to dry and then I'll come back and embroider over it when it's all dried. This is your free motion or freehand embroidery foot, and for the majority of machines you're going to have to take off the foot with a screwdriver to replace it. So I'm just going to drop off the foot that's already on here now, then take your screwdriver and unscrew this bit at the side. But that's somewhere safe because you don't want to lose it. And then your freehand embroidery foot will clip on to the shank in the same place, but there's a little bar at the top here and that needs to sit on top of the screw that sits out of the side. So hold it in place, screw back in again. Sometimes on some machines you can do this without completely taking the screw out, which makes it a bit easier. It doesn't work that way on my machine. And then just screw that back up until it's finger tight. And then if I just turn the hand wheel up and down, you'll see that the foot is pushed up by that little bar that goes on top of the screw that I just showed you. Up it goes like that. Okay, I've threaded my machine in black. That's the colour of choice for my project, so let's get on with it. These little teeth underneath the sewing machine are called the feed dogs, and those are what draw the fabric through as you're sewing. So we need to drop those. Now the button for mine is behind the accessory compartment at the back of the machine. A lot of machines are. They're gone. Some of them have a little lever at the front. Some of you won't be able to drop the feed dogs on your sewing machines. But your machine will probably come with a darning plate, which is a little plastic plate that you sit over the top of the feed dogs so they can work away underneath, but again the fabric isn't going to move forward. I've set the machine to a straight stitch. It doesn't matter the stitch length because you're going to be the judge of that. And I'm going to start in a corner. So I'll put my foot down, it's already down, and just turn the hand wheel into the corner. Now because the feed dogs aren't working, I can move this fabric around in any direction I want to. I don't have to follow the straight line straight into the sewing machine. I'll show you what I mean. So if I just start slowly, now I'm moving that fabric and I can go up and around the handle. What I would suggest is that you snip off that little bit of thread, leave the needle down so it carries on from the same point, and snip off the thread that you started with right at the beginning, just so it doesn't get tangled up. And now I can sew around and down. It might be an idea to have a practice sheet first before you go straight into one of your designs. And what I do like to do, this sketchy kind of look, is to try and go over the same line twice, and it doesn't quite happen, but that I think adds to the naivety of the stitches, almost like a child's done them, around over the bum. But you can see already now my teapot is starting to come to life. So although I haven't painted on the inside of the teapot right up to the lines, it really doesn't matter because there's a black line that you see. And again, you can take it easy, you can go faster, you can go slower. Try not to pull the fabric through because we don't want to bend the needle, but just keep that moving. If you stop moving, then you're just going to stitch over and over in the same spot, which just make a little bit of a knot. So trying to follow that purple line all around the leg. And I'm really not worried if I go outside the line, or I miss a bit, or I go over it twice. Remember, that purple line will disappear within a couple of days. Around the spout, and backwards again. And again, if you want to take it a little bit more slowly, if it's the first time you've done it, that's fine. It doesn't matter the speed. Now I'm just going to lift my foot up here and skip across to the flower in the middle. Put my foot down. Make sure your foot is down because a lot of machines will work with the foot up and you won't realise that the foot's up until you see the back of your work and it's a little bit messy. So going around the petals. Doesn't matter if they're not perfect. And around the second time. And again I'm going to stop, lift my foot up and move it to the centre, and these long stitches I'll snip those away afterwards. So we go around in a circle here, and in a spiral right to the centre. Move it across, and then the stem, and the leaf, that's it. Now I'll do the teacup in just a second, but I just want to show you how I go around the writing, because that obviously needs to be a little bit more precise because you need to be able to read it. So all of those skip stitches, then I'll just snip those off so it looks nice and neat. That's coming on well. And then I'm going to go around the writing just as if I was writing with my needle. So position that into the end of the first letter. Let's move this thread out of the way, I don't want to sew over that, so I won't be able to read it. And again, don't worry about this being absolutely perfect on that purple line, because the purple will disappear. backwards because again I like that double stitch kind of look, but I'm trying to be a little bit more accurate here so you can still read it. When it comes to dotting the eye, I'm just going to get around in a very tiny circle, like so. So I just finished taking away the rest of those long stitches, make it nice and tidy. I think that's it. I've started to take off the stabiliser from the back. Remember, it was a tearaway one that I popped on there. Careful not to put your scissors through your work. So I just rip the rest of that away around the stitches, because sometimes it can make your fabric a little bit stiffer. So then all I need to do with this picture is to put a hot iron over the paint, because it was dye-long paint, and that will seal it in, so it's not going to come off in the wash. That will do. And then that's ready to be made into a bag or a cushion cover or even a wall hanging.